freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's Fortinet Championship. It's storylines, it's our best bets, and it's our brand new one and done season. Joining me to break it all down, Mark Immelman is here. Mark, happy new season.
Happy new season to all of you. Good to be back. Enjoyed my week off. In fact, I've got a few weeks off before the Ryder Cup, so this has been fun. Good to be back with you guys.
Greg DuCharme is here. Greg, what up?
I second that, Mark. Great to be back with everybody. It's like, it kind of feels like the first day of school, even though for Rick and I, it's the second. But yeah, great to be here.
Did you dress up, Greg? Did you wear like your new shoes for the first day of school and you got all dressed up and you made sure your hair was combed and everything?
Well, no, this was not necessarily me. I more of my mom. So
right.
But yeah, I was dressed up on the first day of school. Today, by the way, speaking of that, was my my 3-year-old's first day of school. So it actually happened today. It goes so fast. But
there
anyway.
There you go. KP.
It'll be prom.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
KP, Kyle Porter is here. Kyle, I remember one year I laced up my brand new Allen Iversons and went to school, and I was positive I was the coolest kid around.
Man, we could go like an hour on which shoes you most wanted or maybe had as a kid. The Griffies, all the Penny Hardaway shoes. This is you're probably out of college, Mark, but all of us were working on our shoe game in middle school and high school. Listen, I've had an entire off season to save up takes, so I am just ready to unload on anything we want to talk about.
Hey, I guess Kyle has driven up Data Golf's hits. The visits to Data Golf must be off the charts after the 7 days off with Kyle Porter around.
Oh, that's good for them. I hope they become millionaires. They're geniuses.
They do good stuff. Gentlemen, we have a Ryder Cup update. We cannot go a day without getting some news, whether it is the European team being finalized or Brooks Koepka donning the cover of Golf Digest and gives a very candid interview, I guess is one way to put it. Kyle, we'll just start here with you. You tweeted out a couple of really interesting snippets of this interview here, and I'll just read a couple of lines. Essentially, he gets asked about his normal schedule and how does that mesh with his Ryder Cup experience. Brooks Koepka in response says, quote, "It's different. It's hectic. It's a bit odd, if I'm honest. I don't want to say it's a bad week. We're just so individualized and everyone has their routine and a different way of doing things. And now it's like, okay, we have to have a meeting at this time or go do this or go do that." It's the opposite of what happens during a major week. Now, there is another quote, but let's pause there. Brooks Koepka, not necessarily the biggest fan of the team aspect, it appears.
Well, honestly, the thing that I got so much to say on this. The thing that stands out there is he says, "I don't want to say it's a bad week," which means that you actually do want to say that, which is like, it's like the best week. And you juxtapose this with everything you hear from the Euro side, right? I mean, think about the quotes we got from Ian Poulter and Sergio and Shane Lowry and all these guys that were captain's picks on Sunday night. And it's like, oh, this is what I like grew up. Like, I can't wait. Yeah, it's a taxing week and it's hard and there are things that are different and abnormal, but it's like the best week, the best time. And this is just, it's just such a, we can get to the other quote, but it's kind of self-defeating. It just, you're kind of going into it like putting yourself behind the 8 ball and it's just so unnecessary. Just, you have to, and I think this is where I said this on our last podcast, Bryson is a problem. I think Brooks is the problem because he's so unwilling to be vulnerable, to get outside of his normal self, that has had a lot of, I mean, obviously he's had a ton of success in major championships over the course of his career, but this is a very different thing. And you have to be willing to honestly, like, just have some humility to be part of a team and to be vulnerable enough to be like, hey, I know I'm like the cool guy or whatever I'm trying to be, but for this week, I'm all in on the team. And that's what you see the Euros do. And I think that's one of the 100 reasons they've had a ton of success over the years.
I find it incredibly interesting, Greg, that he did compare this to a major championship week, which is just further confirmation that Brooks Koepka, no matter what else it is, Ryder Cup, a WGC, it doesn't matter. He is singularly focused on majors. He's comparing the Ryder Cup to what normally goes on during a major championship week. I thought that was kind of a fascinating kind of throwaway line that gives us a glimpse into what literally his number one priority is.
Yeah, and I would say there are a lot of people. I understand where he's coming from with that, because there are a lot of people that consider this to be one of the best sporting events in all of the world. And so, is it a better week for a viewing experience than majors? Some people feel that way. It's up there in that category as one of our marquee events in the game of golf. But Kyle brings up what the Euros do. And I think of a Sergio Garcia, an Ian Poulter. I would include John Rahm in this, not Rory McIlroy. But these guys look at the Ryder Cup as their marquee event. This is the event that they covet the most. And it seems to be the European team, there are players who would rather win in the Ryder Cup than win a major, right? This is their priority. And the way Brooks Koepka classifies greatness, classifies success in his career, classifies himself as being the best player he can be, which he said a number of times in this article, which was just one of my favorite reads. It was fascinating. One of my most entertaining reads of the year was this article. But he looks at greatness and he compares it to what Tiger's doing, what Jack has done, and it's majors. And Ian Poulter and Sergio Garcia are so proud of their Ryder Cup record. And Americans they're just not like that. So Brooks has a drive, which was very evident in this to me. He has a drive to be a great. He wants to be great. He wants to be like a Kobe Bryant of the game of golf. And I'm not sure he feels that the Ryder Cup gets him any closer to that. I mean, remember the quote Tiger said, I can think of a million reasons why this isn't that important to me. There's something along those lines. The only thing I really remember is I can give you a million reasons why. And it was a kind of a negative comment on the Ryder Cup. I would bet that sticks with Brooks. I would bet you that's something that he knows, that resonates with him. So unfortunately, it kind of highlights the problem that the USA has had in the past 10 years.
I was going to say it's emblematic of like I think the primary reason the US hasn't had a lot of success is they don't really trust one another, and they don't trust the guy, whoever the captain is. There's not as much trust on the US side as the European side, and that doesn't sound like it's like whatever, man, just go shoot a 65. Which, yes, go shoot a 65. But when you don't trust one another, it creates a lot of mental clutter, right? You start thinking about a bunch of different stuff. And am I going to have to answer questions about Brooks in this press con? There's just a bunch of stuff going on that doesn't need to be going on when you have that trust. And I think that it makes the U.S. play worse. It makes them play below where their talent level is. So I think this is really emblematic of that bigger problem.
Here's the second quote, which Mark, I think, does speak to the team/individual side of Brooks Koepka's mind here. So he kind of gets continued to be pressed on, what are you concerned about at the Ryder Cup? You only have to look after yourself at a major championship. And Brooks Koepka says, quote, "It's tough. There are times when I'm like, I won my match. I did my job. What do you want from me? I know how to take responsibility for the shots I hit every week. Now somebody else hit a bad shot and left me in a bad spot. And I know this hole is a loss. That's new. And you have to change the way you think about things. You go from an individual sport all the time to a team sport 1 week a year." And he finishes, Mark, by saying, quote, "It's so far from my normal routine," end quote.
You're not surprised that Brooks said this stuff, are you? I mean, that's how I want to start.
No.
And I'm also, I didn't read the entire article. I caught bits of it. Because it was largely making my blood boil a little bit. And I'm sure that Captain Stricker and his crew are feeling kind of the same way right now, that this thing would be released at this time when we are just, mere days away from what's a pretty big event. But I found that curious because Brooks never hits a bad shot on a partner. He's like, yeah, I won my match, or I had a good shot. Nah, it's you because you played alternate shot with me that's hit the crap. No, that's just not going to endear yourself very much to people in the locker room. But it's like I've been saying all along with the whole Bryson debacle, with Brooks as well, to a certain extent with Reed, which has been mitigated because he's not on the team. You just kind of know what you're going to get. And I think a lot of the guys in the locker room know what they're going to get. And now the challenge is, because I'm going to look beyond this, the captain and all of his crew and the team needs to look beyond this too. The only people that are benefiting out of this is the fans, because they got to laugh, and the Europeans who are like, oh, this is some bulletin board material for us. Where everyone now on the US squad's got to move ahead a little bit. And now they're going to start to go, okay, who do we pair this guy with? Because he is essentially just shot a big dagger at 11 of his teammates there and said, yeah, well, I'm going to be perfect. It's you scrubs that are going to let me down. So as a person who has high respect for Brooks and for anyone who plays the game at that level, and you talk about being a great, 4 majors, he's a great already. There are not many more folks in the game that have more than 4 majors. Let's just be real, okay? Out of all the folks that have ever played this game for a living. So he's great, he's bordering on greatness. But you don't say this stuff even if you feel it. And perhaps, like we've advised Bryson and a few other professionals in the past, you are a professional golfer. Pay attention to the word professional, not just a golfer. And a professional handles himself properly in front of the media, in front of whoever. Jordan, those sorts of guys, they did that. Tiger made 1 or 2 mistakes when he was young, but he never made them again. Speaking wise, now he did some other stuff, but I was just disappointed at this, and I'm disappointed for the Americans because I'm friendly with a whole bunch of the European guys, but I really want the Americans to win this year, and this has just not done them any favors. To Kyle's observations.
Yeah, I think Mark makes a great point about like Brooks matters. Like, right, he has 4 majors. Like that is significant, and I think he like, I don't know. I go back and forth. I think he could matter in the team room if he really took that on. Like I mean, again, like 4 majors among players is a freaking big deal. And if you start saying stuff, and everybody knows that, if you start saying stuff, I think it carries some weight. Now, I do think that the U.S. has the benefit that I don't think matters the most in that room. I think JT, I think Spieth, I think there are other guys that matter more. And listen, like I've been really big on the Tiger and Phil generation, not caring about the Ryder Cup, especially like the quote that Greg mentioned earlier with Tiger. I think because those guys were they mattered the most in the room always, like for as long as they were on the team, that really, I think, negatively affected the U.S. side for a number of years. And I think the turnover to JT and Spieth and those guys as the leaders, I think that will really benefit the U.S. because I think those guys really do care about the Ryder Cup. And so I think if Brooks was like the guy, this would be catastrophic for the U.S. team. But I think there are other guys that you can kind of look to as the guys that Brooks is a little bit mitigated by how many big personalities the U.S. side has.
I hear you. I want to say that Brooks is a big personality. He really is. In the locker room, in the players' lounge, on the golf course, he is. He's a big personality now in the media too, and he's making his persona a little greater with all of these shenanigans that have been going on. I'm keen to see how the team deals with this because from my point of view, personally, all this has done is ruin my bet against Kyle. Because now there's no chance that this boy is playing all 5 matches. I guarantee you, if Stricker's got any Bill Belichick in him, he's going to go, you keep your rear end on the bench once or twice here, and you'll quickly realize how you're going to play for the red, white, and blue and not for you. And that's a big deal here. So it's a horrible situation.
In a world, Greg, where we normally get processed responses that have been run through PR and through agents and managers, should we just be applauding Brooks Koepka for telling us exactly how he feels?
I understand where the question comes from here, right? But this is the problem that I have with Brooks, who I love. And there's so much in this article that I really loved and I think is great, especially for golfers to learn from as a coach. The stuff about him growing from his being a hothead and learning how to improve and how to keep his cool and, not break the leg of his bags like he did when he was in college, taking stuff from it's a great story. And what he does is really admirable. Yet at the same time, he contradicts himself constantly. And it bothers me. So he says, I'm so competitive. If I'm playing ping pong, I want to embarrass you. I want to ruin you. Yet it doesn't feel like he has that competitive drive when he goes to a PGA Tour event. And it definitely didn't seem like he has a competitive drive to beat the Europeans in the Ryder Cup. It feels like this week's just a lot. And I can't focus on what I can't focus on what I'm doing. Tiger said, I don't get paid for this. I get paid for a regular event. That's a little bit different than, okay, this is just too much for me. But if we play ping pong, I want to embarrass you. It's so intense. It burns. It like the language he uses is so strong and it's captivating and I love it. But then he says other things that contradict it. And it makes me feel like he's, I don't know. It perplexes me. I don't know how to handle it.
That's a very good take there. And look, I've been around President's Cups a little bit, and I've been at the Ryder Cup. I've never been in part of the team mix, but these weeks are grueling because there's a lot of functions. There's black tie deals, there's ceremonies, there's dinners. So it does get you out of your routine. So I will concede that to Brooks and say, I hear what you're saying. I really do. But I don't see the point. This is not lifting anybody up. It's right. It's true. It's just not building anybody up right now. And perhaps just don't say that sort of stuff in articles like this. Maybe just for the greater good, perhaps.
Last thing, Greg, I think Greg is right about Tiger and Brooks are saying different things, but I think it stems from the same point, which is like, I'm above this. I'm bigger than this. I'm more important than kind of the task at hand. And the thing that's really frustrating about Koepka is that, like, and I said it earlier, like, he could be like such a great leader for the US team. Like, hey, you got, like, get on my back. I'll carry us. And if we lose, put the blame on me, right? Not like, oh, so-and-so hit a ball behind a tree. What could I do? There's just such a capacity there, like Greg was saying, for just that intensity at a Ryder Cup and that leadership that we could see, that he just seems so unwilling to engage in. And honestly, like, some of the quotes later on where he was talking about, oh, I don't get a nap and I can't unwind by watching SportsCenter. It's like, what does he always talk about? Being like, guys are too mentally soft, right? I already have my advantage when I get to a major championship. That's as soft as it gets. I'm sorry. Like, that's really soft. It's really, really, really soft. And it's kind of turning around, like, everything that he always says about everybody else. He kind of turned it around on himself, unintentionally so, by saying that. So we could talk about this for an hour, but that's kind of what, those are kind of my points about the Brooks situation.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in it there. Obviously, this has been your daily Ryder Cup update. I imagine there is going to be plenty more in the future. Jon Rahm is using this week at the Fortinet to essentially work his way into the Ryder Cup, but he will not be doing it, gentlemen, with a Player of the Year award on his resume, because that goes to Patrick Cantlay. And Mark, let's get this out of the way. This is an award that is voted on by their peers, the players. I don't know if it's a sampling of players, if they are all able to vote, how many of them actually submit something. I want them to release the results like Baseball Hall of Fame, like who got how many votes, who voted for who. I want to see it all.
I might be wrong, but if memory serves, and at 50 years young, thank you, Kyle, my memory is sometimes failing me.
Kyle.
that any paid PGA Tour member, any member in good standing gets to vote. And so that means if you are not playing, but you are a former player and you have a membership in good standing, you vote. I believe. Don't quote me on that. But everyone I've spoken to, they take this role quite. They don't take it lightly. They know it's a big responsibility to vote, and kudos to them. I think it was a foregone conclusion that Will wins the Rookie of the Year, Zalatoris, that is. But I've said this: players respect wins. They really do. Major championships win even more. But if you've got a bushel of wins, like 4, now, and people are going to argue with me with this because they're like, well, he got to start at the Tour Championship. He won. He played like he needed to win the event. 4 victories is a big year. And most times when you find guys that have 4, 5 wins, JT, I think when he won had 5, maybe 6, I can't remember what it was. That's a big, big season when you're winning at that sort of a clip. And so, John Rahm put up a big, he had a stout argument for the thing. And yes, that COVID debacle, that wasn't the coolest thing in the world, but it was the rules of engagement. Everybody knew it. I mean, from when we came back. So I think this is thoroughly deserved. Patrick Cantlay played well in the fall. He played well in the spring. There was that slight lull through the summer, and then he played well when it meant something. So I'm sure a good percentage of the players voted, and I'm sure that it wasn't a landslide, but it was well earned.
There was no doubt in my mind Patrick Cantlay was going to be the PGA Tour Player of the Year, and even knowing that, you still wonder how it actually feels when it's official. Greg, do we need to assign like criteria to this? What makes a Player of the Year? Is it the guy you'd least like to face in a playoff? Is it the guy that you think who won the most? Is it the guy like? Do we need to start trying to all agree on some type of criteria for what makes a Player of the Year?
No. No, this is the beauty of it. It's the conversation, right? There's always hypotheticals. The PGA of America has a points list that decides Player of the Year, and it doesn't generate it doesn't generate anything. There's no conversation about it. There's no engagement. There's no debate. It's just a points list, and nobody's predicting who's going to win the PGA of America Player of the Year race. That's not going to be a January prop conversation for us this year. It's just not. So I think having this kind of discussion and this kind of debate makes for a really interesting award. And it's a conversation that is all over the game of golf. And I think also what Mark said earlier about the players taking it very seriously. This is why, because they're fans too, and they listen to they are paying attention to content, and they're listening to shows like this. I'm sure there's a couple of voters listening to this show too. I'm sure
there definitely are, because I've heard things get back to us that I was like, oh,
yeah.
if I knew you were listening, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah. So these players they're fans. They're people. They love the game, and they want to be involved in it. And so I like the fact that it's not so structured, and Jon Rahm with 1 win can be in the conversation with Cantlay with 4 wins. I like that aspect.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm with Greg that, one player can go, well, victories are important to me, and the other player can go, well, strokes gain metrics, or whatever the case might be. But there's also a real recency bias that's always on the go in everything, really. And let's not forget that playoff, which has been tagged by a number of the pundits to say that playoff at the BMW Championship. That's the playoff for the ages kind of thing. And what Patrick Cantlay did in that thing, the boy had his back against the proverbial ropes half the time and just gutted his way out there. And he showed himself as a player to the world. And there were multiple highlights. So that was a whole bunch of recency. Then he takes that and he takes it to the very following week and parlays that into a tough battled win, because it's hard to play with a lead. And it's 2 strokes. And as Jon Rahm said beginning of the week, that could be gone after 4 holes. So I think the performance he put on, I should say, there at Caves Valley, I think that went a long way to the selection. I really do.
I want to read a quote here. It goes like this. Rahm won 3 tournaments and got credit for 1. Cantlay won 2 tournaments and got credit for 4. Normal sport, end quote. That from my friend right there, Kyle Porter. KP, what's up?
I just want to know if Will Zalatoris was allowed to vote in the Player of the Year award race, because he's
Probably not.
He's not
No.
a member. I mean, it's such a
No, he's a temporary member. I think you can, surely, right?
who can say? It's such
I
a
don't
normal
think so.
sport.
Maybe I could be wrong.
Here's the thing. I think we're talking about. There you go. Yeah. Here's my stat. Okay, so we're talking about all this different stuff, and I love talking about it. I'm with Greg. Like, the more subjective, the better. Like, it's so much fun. But I think the reality is, like, this Player of the Year award race comes down to whether Rahm tests positive for COVID or not. Because I think if he tests negative for COVID at the Memorial, he goes on to win. Now he's got 2 wins to Cantlay's 3, and Rahm wins Player of the Year. I think. I mean, I don't see, like, I'm struggling to, even with just 1 win, I'm struggling to see how Cantlay was a better player than Rahm throughout the year. I mean, I've got the stat right here. They played in 17 of the same tournaments. Rahm finished ahead of him in 13 of those, including the 7 most important, so all 6 majors and the Players. And Cantlay finished ahead of Rahm 3 times, and one of those was the Memorial, which Rahm had to withdraw from. And then they both missed a cut at Quail Hollow at the Wells Fargo Championship. So there's a ton of different ways that you can look at it, but I don't want the Player of the Year award race to swing on whether or not Rahm tested positive for COVID, because I honestly think if he tests negative, that whoever, I don't know what the number, they should release the votes. I'm with all of you guys. Whatever the numbers were, I think they swing in Rahm's favor and he wins. Now, the last thing I'll say is I also, and I tweeted this out, I think there should be an all NBA type team where you get like the 4 or 5 or whatever, like these guys really mattered this season. I think that stuff is really meaningful to look back on, where we can say 13 years later, okay, who really mattered in 2008? Maybe it was Anthony Kim. Maybe it was obviously Tiger. I think there should be that type of, so it's not just one guy.
All tour.
And then also there should be a majors MVP or majors Player of the Year, which is, it would be akin to like a finals MVP, right? So we say, okay, that was your regular season MVP. Who was the finals MVP? Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, all these guys that win finals MVP. That Rahm would have won finals MVP. He would have won the major Player of the Year. So I think both of those they would really just complement this PGA Tour Player of the Year award nicely going into the future.
While we're playing hypotheticals here, I really feel like, and this is just my opinion, because there was a grueling stretch that the people were going through there in the summer leading into Torrey Pines. And it's always hard when you've got that stretch of golf, and then East Coast to West Coast is hectic. Then you've got to go and play a beast like Torrey Pines. And I really do believe that because John, I don't know what the severity of his COVID case was, if he was really ill, but I feel like that extra time that he had, where other guys were still competing, that was a real feather in his cap when it came to longevity around a place like Torrey Pines. I really do. And that's just my opinion. I mean, that and $2 is going to get you a cup of coffee somewhere. But I really feel like if we start to go, well, the Memorial and this and all the rest of it, he did have an advantage having some time off coming in there. He did.
They're hard games to play.
That's an interest. Yeah, you start doing the butterfly effect. I will say this, Greg, because I think Kyle was kind of going down the path that I worry about, and I don't know if anybody actually cares about this, but like in a lot of other sports, the MVP award, it's a big deal. It's a big deal in the NBA. You talk about how many MVPs someone has. In our sport, does the PGA Tour Player of the Year get lessened in value when we're constantly like, should this guy have won it? And also, is it just going to be the guy that wins the FedEx Cup now that we have changed the format? You know what I mean? So now is it just like, well, he shouldn't be the MVP. He should just be the guy who won the FedEx Cup. Should we even have the player of the, you know what I mean? I just worry that it removes a lot of the aura around winning your league or your organization's MVP, for lack of a better way to say it.
I wouldn't mind seeing it and seeing the voting end before the Northern Trust at the end of the Wyndham, right? I
Okay.
think if you
All other
that
sports
would be
stop their voting in the regular
right.
season.
Right. So that would make sense to me because you to Kyle's point about having a finals MVP. I know he used majors as an example, but Dustin Johnson last year and Cantlay this year were the MVP of the playoffs, no question. And so that turned into player of the year in the year as a whole. And you can always debate that. But Rick, to your original question, I have never heard anybody mention on Tiger Woods' resume how many Jack Nicklaus awards he's won. I don't know. I don't know that number. I'm sure it's 6 or 10 or I mean, I have no idea how many.
I'm counting for you. You keep going.
I
I'm
think it's
counting.
8.
Okay. Yep. So I got plenty of time here. Point being, it's not. This isn't an award that is looked at as a resume builder at this time. Is that a problem? Yeah, you could debate. You could debate it. I mean, majors take over such a strong. They hold such a strong place in our game and our measure of success. Wins hold such a strong place in our measure of success, and I don't feel that that player of the year does. Although I do think it's important.
Tiger's got 11.
11. Wow.
Right.
I think
I didn't know that.
One problem is that you're going to get a lot of guys that when you win one playoff event, it becomes that much easier to win the FedEx Cup. And so it's almost like this snowball at the very end of the year. And Mark mentioned recency bias earlier. And so if you win even one other event throughout the season, then it just becomes like this kind of not inevitability, but it becomes very easy to vote for that person because you've just seen them win 2 of 3 events or whatever, maybe all 3 in the playoffs. And then, yeah, you're like, oh yeah, that guy was, of course, he kind of won the whole thing as we think about it. And that's just, I don't know that I actually like the Tour Championship from a viewer's perspective, but that's the downside. One of the downsides of it is it's not a real tournament. Right.
It just shouldn't count for these things. Right.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be an official win. It shouldn't count towards player of the year. If you it's its own entity and it's fine to watch and it's fine to determine the FedEx Cup, but it can't be both. It can't be official and this format.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
but without that, he still had 3 wins. And the best,
for sure, and maybe
true. I'm not talking about just Cantlay there,
and maybe he still wins. I go back to the majors and the players. Rahm beat him in all 7, and he won one of them. And Cantlay was just not very good at the biggest events of the year. He missed a couple cuts. His best finish was like a T15 at the. I think it was at the 2020 USO, or I think it was at the 2020 Masters. So, Cantlay was just not. He might have won the most tournaments. He was not the best player throughout the year.
The same thing happened in 19, by the way, with the major. I mean, Koepka beat. It's kind of the surprise over the last 3 years to me is that the players don't hold the majors in a higher standard, right? Because
what does that line up with, Greg? It lines up with them changing the format because now the guy who wins the FedEx Cup is your PGA Tour Player of the Year. It's the only 3 times in history the PGA Tour Player of the Year has been different than the PGA Player of the Year, and it aligns exactly with because the Tour guys have to put the weight on the FedEx Cup.
Well, I have to say this because look, but for a lipped out putt, it could have been DeChambeau going into Eastlake with the number 1 spot, and what's the conversation then? So again, like I say to you, what Cantlay pulled off there to dodge all of those bullets and then make the putt to keep it alive and then tie, that was a big deal in a lot of players' minds. And I will say this about all the players I've been around. You know, when it's not locker rooms, when it's not like public speak, when it's over wine behind closed doors, these guys take this stuff seriously and they're watching what everyone else is doing. And I was, while you guys were talking, just looking through the previous players of the year voted by the players. This is from 2012. Rory, Tiger, Rory, Spieth, Dustin, Justin, Brooks, Rory, Dustin. It's not like they're picking random players over here. Now, again, Rahm put a really good season together, but Cantlay won 4 times. And 4 times, yes, asterisk 3, whatever it is, Kyle. 4 times is a big deal.
2.
We kind of brushed we kind of brushed over this. I don't think we need to spend much time on this. Will Zalatoris, I assume, unanimously wins Rookie of the Year. I would like to see the voting polls for that one, but he is your Rookie of the Year over Garrick Higo. And here's a couple trivia questions for you, gentlemen.
Now winning doesn't matter.
True. The last
Yeah, but Garrick played what? How many events over here? Come on.
10, I think.
8?
Something like 10. Yeah, I don't know. The last player to win the Rookie of the Year as a special temporary member was anyone? And don't, unless you read it in the outline, don't cheat.
I know this one.
Like they remained a special temporary?
I can't imagine that would be true. They won it in the
I think
year
it was
that they
Spieth
got
in 13.
No. It wasn't.
I want to go.
Oh, Ramen 16?
Go ahead.
Charlie
Mark.
went to the
15?
he went to your school, bro.
Do you know this, Greg?
Charles Howell III.
There you
Yeah.
go. You guys got it. Yeah, Charles Howell III.
I thought that Spieth got special temporary in 13 when he won the John Deere.
Well, when he won, he was a member.
Yeah, when you become a member, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
he
what
couldn't have been a
that's
special
what
temporary member.
Well, but he was at one point in the.
Right.
So
but by
was-
the end of the year, he was a full member.
But you're saying you end the year. Okay, my bad. I misunderstood that. Sorry.
Well, I didn't really clarify. The
You
thing
would
was
have had
just-
it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Other trivia question. Completely. Everything we've talked about, it is not associated with that. 2 players: Dustin Johnson, Gary Player. What do they have in common?
Got houses in
Look
South
where-
Carolina.
Not what I'm looking for, but probably true.
Yeah, right.
Dustin Johnson, Gary Player.
Wow, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go with this one.
I know
Is
they
it,
enjoy Arnold Palmer spiked.
Close, Mark. That would have been a very good setup for the ad. Almost
Alright.
there. How many victories do they have?
26, 25,
Yeah.
Close.
24.
24.
24, which is the size of can that Arnold Palmer Spiked
Wow.
is now available in. This is not the 24-ounce can, gentlemen. This is the 12-ounce can. Do you think if I just cracked it open and chugged it, would I get fired or would I get promoted for that? It's
Promotion.
kind of a
Promoted for
promotion.
sure.
You
Promotion,
should
yeah.
get promoted.
Oh boy, maybe I'll just sip it the rest of the way. But gentlemen, it is, Jacob says promotion in the chat. It is the perfect combination of iced tea and lemonade. You can have it out while you're playing a round of golf. If you're hanging by the pool, if you're working on a podcast, you just drink it on the side and nobody says anything. Sometimes you get a little promotion for it, but this really is, it really is a very delightful drink. It now comes in multi-packs and it tastes the way a hole-in-one feels. Greg, have you ever had a hole-in-one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you did. You had a walk-off ace.
Yeah, back in
to win a high school
2008.
thing.
Yep. Yep.
Is
2008.
that the only one?
Yeah, the only one. But I don't need any more.
Mark, do you have any aces? You had one. Oh, wait. You had one at Faldo's house.
Yeah, no, Jim Nance's
Or at
house.
Nance's house. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's on a shore. I've had one real one on the golf course. Yeah.
And was it refreshing to get a hole-in-one?
You know, it was so long ago. I forget. My mind fails me.
It's refreshing after the hole in one.
All right.
I'll just tell you, it was
February.
very refreshing. We're doing an ad read. It was very, very refreshing. Nothing beats Arnold Palmer Spiked. You can find Arnold Palmer Spiked in a store near you at arnoldpalmerspiked.com/first or search for it on Drizzly and Instacart. That's arnoldpalmerspiked.com/first. 2021 Hornell Brewing Company, Memphis, Tennessee. Malt beverage with natural flavor. Celebrate responsibly. Ooh, we're live now. We're cracked. All right, gentlemen.
Here we go.
Right before the picks, right before we start spending the money,
First
things
cut,
are about to go
first cut
sideways.
after dark. Yeah.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Producer Jacob has waved his magic wand, and we are doing something different here in the fall. We are going to do one best bet per week. We are assuming it is a $100 wager. And KP, this probably, I don't know, it's kind of feel like it impacts you the most. You're either the guy who makes the one best bet or the 30 bets. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I really, my betting evolution was incredible. It must have been incredible to behold last season because I went from betting on half the field to betting on, 2 guys throughout the week. So I'm glad for it because And actually, I think Mark should be the most glad for it because I think he actually won our best. I think he got the most best bets correct last season.
Oh,
So
really?
if we just stick with like one, it was either me or him. I don't know. I haven't looked in a while.
Yeah,
But
you were the betting was the entire year. When you got more singular about your selections.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if it. I don't know. I think it benefits me, but I'm not. I'm not
I can
totally sure.
confirm it benefited Kyle greatly to the point where I'm making you guys just pick one bet for each episode apiece. So instead of giving our listeners 25 bets to wager on, they only have to track 5. And also selfishly me too.
I was gonna say this feels like it's more for you, Jake.
That's more what it sounded like.
Yeah, I mean I'm
Our
a fool over
listener.
here. Right, our listeners. I can't track 80 football bets and 3 dozen golf bets as well at the Fortinet Championship.
Fortnite.
Greg, let's primer this field a little bit here. It's kind of a weird field. You get the number 1 player in the world, and then you also finally get the graduating class, the class we've been waiting on from the KFT for what feels like a decade. Here they go, and whoever you pick to win, if it is not Jon Rahm, you might just run into the Rahm buzzsaw. So you kind of got to be careful. I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's a little tricky to pick, winners. If you only have one bet, you're only getting one to throw down. My recommendation with Rahm sitting in the field at what is he, 3.5 to? I think last I saw was plus 3,500. I don't really like that number, and I don't like betting against him. So betting winners, I don't think is the optimal strategy this week. But hey, that's just
He's
my
plus
style.
3,500. I'd like to bet all of my money on it.
It's not
350. Excuse me.
I want to say this to Greg. I loved my time doing radio at Silverado. I thought the golf course was tremendous, that North course over there. It's sort of old school. It turns corners. And to this day, I think I called the event like 5 times. I could still not tell you what area of the game it's sort of examined because every hole was sort of different. And so handicapping the field, in my opinion, was real hard. I mean, you look at the list of winners over there. Brendan Steele wins a couple times. I remember Kevin Tway because I called it. Cam Champ. So you got sort of long, not so long, really long. And then you got, guys like Emiliano Grillo, who's sort of a good iron player. And then I can't remember who the rest are, but it's just a weird sort of a place. And it sort of examines the entire bag, but it's hard to pick. It really is hard to pick, in my opinion, around there.
Well, our friends over at Caesars have Jon Rahm currently, as we speak, plus 375 to win the Fortinet Championship. A huge gap between him and Webb Simpson, who is 16 to 1. Greg, let's start with you. Your best bet is, do you want me to reveal it or do you want to reveal it?
Whatever you prefer. This is your world, Rick. I'm just living in it.
It's Ches Reavie, baby, Shea Reve, to finish inside the top 10. And for that, you would get 5.5 to 1 on your cashola.
I love Ches Reavie this week. Shea, as I'll call him from here on out, Shea is a great driver of the golf ball. And Mark, that's the one line that I draw when you say what's the key? Kevin Tway, when he won, was a really good driver, but it's not necessarily long or short. You have to be a good driver of the ball in one way or another. So I understand where you're coming from there, but I see guys who are really solid, really strong drivers of the golf ball, and that's what I see with Shea. He is extremely accurate off the tee, and that's an asset that I think will go a long way for him this week. And then beyond that, his iron play also, I think he finished 22nd on tour last year in strokes gained approach the green. The concern is the putter. That's also true about Emiliano Grillo, another guy who's won here. True about Kevin Tway. Not in the weeks of his wins, but it has been true about Cam Champ as well. So I look at it as a driver's golf course, but it doesn't have a bias to distance one way or the other. One of the reasons why I think Jon Rahm has a great chance of winning. But I think Shea Reve gets himself in the top 10. This event was his only top 10 last year. And I think he's just been 365 days for him is just too long. 1 year is too long for him to go without a top 10. So I think he gets in there this week.
Nobody keeps Ches Reavie out of the top 10 for 366 days in a row.
That's right.
So Greg is going with Ches Reavie top 10 plus 550. The coach, we got his pick, actually fading Reavie, going with Doug Gim minus 120 over Reavie in a matchup. Ooh, a little bit interesting there. We shall
Yeah, it is interesting.
We shall see. Mark, you are riding the hot hand, sir. You are going with Mr. Kevin Na, a fellow Las Vegan.
Vegan.
Even money over Webb Simpson.
Yeah, the one thing, well, Kevin Na was in a playoff here a few years ago. I can't recall who beat him. It was a few years ago, and he's played pretty solidly around here. And the one thing, to Greg's observation about the course, every fairway is sort of flanked by these giant eucalyptus trees and then these redwoods. So you can miss a fairway but sort of have a shot, or you could miss a fairway and have nothing and you're pitching out. And the one thing that Kevin Na does is he puts the ball in play off the tee, and then he's sensational around the greens. And so it's just on these perennial greens on the West Coast, I sort of go to people that do that stuff well, and Kevin Na's proved that he's had success around here. So the verdict's still a little out on Webb. He hasn't had his best stuff of late, so I'm going with Na, who's playing pretty well around a course he's played pretty well at.
That playoff loss 2015 to Emiliano Grillo, that was 2 sponsors ago. That was the fries.com Open. How about that? Okay, let's turn our attention to, all right, Kyle, you go first, because I'll kind of piggyback off of yours here. You're staying at the top of the board. It is the very tippy top. It is Jon Rahm to finish inside the top 10. And for that, you are going to have to lay minus 220.
Yeah, that's fine. He's finishing in the top 10 either 7 out of 8 times or 8 in a row, depending on how you feel about the Memorial. I can't imagine him.
The players say it's 7 out of 8 or whatever.
Yeah, apparently. I can't imagine him not finishing in the top 10 there. And listen, like the numbers are, I think it gets, again, I've said this 100 times, it gets normalized. His numbers are astonishing. I mean, if you look at last 3 months, he's been almost he's gained almost twice as many strokes per round as the second best guy in the field, who's Kevin Na. Rahm's at like 3.3, and I think Na's at 1.8 or something like that. And he's gained 3 times as many as the 6th best guy in the field, who's Mito Pereira. He's at 1.1, and Rahm's at 3.3. I love Mito too, but it's just he is
not a fair fight.
He's playing so much better than everybody in this field, and you know that strokes gain difference. It doesn't sound like a ton, but over the course of 36 holes, 54 holes, 72 holes, it's a huge amount. And not to go back to the Cantlay thing, but Rahm was a half stroke better per round than him throughout the season, and Cantlay was the second best guy. And Rahm was 2 strokes better per event than Patrick Cantlay. So he's playing at an absurd level. And yeah, it's not a great number, but it's just difficult to imagine him finishing outside the top 10.
It's better than his outright number. Plus 375 implies he's going to win this event 21% of the time. A full field event with other professional golfers 21% of the time. What peak Tiger was like 25% of the events that he won when he teed it up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy.
And Rahm only won one. He only won once last year.
He's only got 1 win.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I love the top 10 bet.
I actually opted for something similar, KP. I took Jon Rahm to be top European, minus 175. I took a little bit of the juice off, and I looked at the other guys who are in this field as a European. The next shortest odds, Steven Yeager. He's coming up from the Korn Ferry. Aaron Rye, Sepp Straka, Russell Knox, Danny Willett. So I just said, listen, I'm not gonna put a top 10, a top 5 on Jon Rahm. He's just got to beat like these other 9 guys, and the next best odds are Steven Yeager, and I didn't have to lay all the juice. So I'm very much with you. Jon Rahm by far the best player in this field. I just tried to cut into the juice a little bit. I thought
I like that. By the way, the funniest part about Rahm's season is that he has a T1 on his OWGR page. Have you guys seen it?
Because Kevin Na too, right?
How do you T1? That's unbelievable. What normal sport? What are we doing?
For those not following along, the official World Golf rankings, they use the raw strokes at the Tour Championship. So when John Rahm and Kevin Na tied to win the Tour Championship, that's what they get in the official World Golf rankings page.
They also split in the PGA of America Player of the Year points race.
Oh,
you don't
really?
get points for second. You don't get points for second. You get points for winning, and they split. They each got 5 points. They split a win. I don't think that's ever happened before.
Expert picks. Who is defining us as experts? Expert picks. Here we go. So this is what we do every single week. We pick a winner, a top 10, and a sleeper. Let's start with the sleepers. And Mark, your sleeper had a very good end of last season stretch. Who is it, please?
I'm going with the somewhat local boy. Went to school just down the road in Palo Alto. Been playing beautifully. I think is sort of found his footing a little bit on the PGA Tour. He came out much heralded, but sort of, found the lumps in the porridge a little bit to start. But now he's playing with a lot of confidence, and I just think Maverick McNeely is going to kick off the season in a big way on a golf course he's played well at in the past.
My favorite Mav McNeely tidbit is he wasn't allowed to play Pebble Beach until he was like 13 years old or whatever. And I was like, oh, tough one, Mav, not allowed to play.
And doesn't Scott has got a huge house there very close to Pebble Beach too. So yeah, I had to look at.
They live right. Imagine the heartache that would have been for a young Mav McNeely. My sleeper, David Lipsky. Actually, I'm just rolling with the Las Vegas crew here. Lipsky is not playing his first PGA Tour event, playing his 19th. We talked about this on Monday, Greg. He finished T8 at the Palmetto last year. You could have given me a million guesses. I never would have gotten to David Lipsky, but he's actually been really good when he's come up and played on tour, and a very well-rounded player from the kind of the junior circuit.
Yeah, the big surprise here for me, Rick, is that he wasn't your best bet of the week. I'm surprised he went Rahm instead of Lipsky, but I like him as a sleeper.
It was really close. I flipped a coin and went with John Rahm. KP, your sleeper, we actually just mentioned him a moment or two ago.
We did. Mino Pereira.
Yeah, baby.
He hasn't played since the Wyndham.
Correct.
And he didn't finish the season great. I think he was T39 at the Barracuda and then maybe miscut at the Wyndham. But leading into that, he was great. He had a bunch of top 10s. He won a couple times on the Corn Ferry. He nearly medaled at the Olympics. He doesn't have momentum because he hasn't played in quite a while, but I think he's underrated a little bit, and I liked his number at 60-1.
I love this guy. He's a ball striking machine. Greg, you are going back to the well for a name that we spent a lot of time talking about in kind of the late summer. Who is your sleeper?
Yeah, I just couldn't believe the number, and the number to win, which, look, I don't know if you recommend going this way, but if you can get a good top 20 or a top 10 bet on Hank Lebioda, I think it's worth it. I mean, since his run where he had 4 events in a row inside the top 8, he has played 6 rounds, and 5 of them were 69, and one was a 76 at the Northern Trust, which obviously didn't go his way. But there were a lot of guys in that event who shot some pretty high numbers. It was a tough golf course. So I give him a pass on that. And I think his form is still much better, and his ability and his confidence is still much better than what these odds show. I couldn't believe it. He actually was, I think he's 125 to 1.
125, correct.
Right. And this guy can win. I mean, his stuff approaching the greens is phenomenal. He's not overly long. I don't think that's terribly important this week. But his iron play is fantastic, and he's got that iron and putting combo that could be really lethal. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he does. And I just think the number is way too long for him.
Hey guys, you guys are the pros. I'm just the guy that walks around a golf course with a microphone. Help me qualify. This sounds like the player of the year conversation. Help me qualify what constitutes a sleeper, because I don't even know what Maverick McNeely's number is. I just know he's probably a name that not a lot of folks are talking about leading into this Fortinet Championship.
40? Didn't we say 40?
Yeah, I think that's what
I think at one time we did say 40-1 or longer. Maverick McNeely's 50-1, so he would qualify by that metric. Although I do like the idea of a sleeper being someone that nobody talks about.
Under the radar.
Yeah. So either one is as long as you don't come on here and say
Right.
John
It does.
Rahm, I think
I agree with you on that, Rick. It depends if it's like if Justin Rose is sitting at 40-1, it's hard to call him a sleeper, even though he's 40-1.
Yeah, but it's by the definition that you just gave, isn't it like somebody whose odds are higher than you think they should be? Or
so
no,
if John Rahm was, I guess, but if John Rahm was 9-1, could we call him a sleeper? We're like, this is
kinda. I mean,
No, you're not allowed to be in a PGA Tour Live featured group. Then you're a sleeper.
That's actually not bad. That's a pretty good one. Yeah, I think whether it's a long shot. So what I think a long shot is someone who has long odds. I think a sleeper is someone who no one's really talking about, or maybe the odds just do not match up with what perception is. That's the way that I usually think about it. But I think most places use them pretty interchangeably. Fair.
So 40-1. We'll keep it at that.
Okay, yeah, 41. Coach is going with Chesson Hadley. I don't have a reason, but Coach is going with Chesson Hadley. Top 10 locks. These are guys that are absolutely going to finish in the top 10. We've probably talked about a lot of these guys. Greg, we'll just go right back to you. We already talked about it. Ches Reavie, you like him to finish inside the top 10.
Yep. That's my best bet.
Onward. Mark, again, sticking with the hot hand here. It's Kevin Na, finish inside the top 10.
I try not to be a bandwagon jumper, but I'm jumping on the Kevin Na bandwagon right now. He's just playing with a whole head of confidence. And I don't know, with all this Brooks stuff, maybe he's trying to sort of play his way into an alternate selection on the team over there. So who knows? Okay. So they might
at
be
least in his mind.
And the one thing about Kevin Na, he's the kind of guy that you say to him, you can't do this, and he's going to prove you wrong. That's the one thing that I know for certain about him in long conversations with the guy. So I like him in California.
John Rahm for UKP. He's good at golf.
Yeah, nothing else needs to be said. Go to his Data Golf or rickrungood.com page and check it out.
There you go. Definitely should do that. Coach is taking Brendan Steele. I'm taking Charlie Hoffman. I just think Charlie Hoffman had a great year. Nobody really wants to give him the respect he deserves. I'm going with Seahoff to finish inside the top 10. And now we go on record and pick our winners. We'll run it right back. KP, we'll start with you to win the Fortinet Championship 2021. Actually, I guess this is the 2022 season Fortinet.
But it's the 2021 Fortinet, right?
So I live by the PGA Tour calendar. I think it's the 2022.
It's listed.
It is. When you go back and search, previous results at the Fortinet Championship.
Yeah, it'll be.
So do they market it as the 20? Do they like sell gear that says 2022 Fortinet?
No, they don't sell gear.
Do they don't sell
yearly
Fortinet
gear at those events. No. No. I think
can I jump in and say the hashtag that they are promoting on their own Twitter?
Oh wait, is it going to be secure the bag because they're a cybersecurity company?
No, it's hashtag Fortinet Championship 21.
Yikes. It's a tough scene.
They have the year wrong. They have the year wrong.
Yeah, they got it wrong. At least backslash 2022 after that.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of
Fortinet Championship 2021/2022 championship.
You've already used
thrown an exclamation point in there too.
All caps.
These date wrinkles next week at the Ryder Cup. I'm going to wear my 24 Ryder Cup at Bethpage State Park t-shirt that I bought a few seasons ago before COVID changed the entire Ryder Cup schedule. So I've got the 24 Ryder Cup at Bethpage long sleeve tee.
I was thinking about that because my wife has a 2024 Bethpage hat, and I was like, this is going to be kind of a collector's deal. Like, nobody's going to have that.
Next week, I'm breaking it out.
Yeah.
Your pick to win. Your pick to win.
Kevin Na. Mark said it earlier. He's been really, if you look at, I think it's the last 12 years or so, the top three guys on this course in terms of strokes gained are Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, and Kevin Na. And the first two are not in the field. Kevin Na he's playing great. It's not a course that's going to overwhelm him. You know, he's Mark said it's a very average PGA Tour course, which I think is why Mark said earlier, like there's not one thing that stands out that you have to be great at. So I think Kevin Na is going to play really well this week.
I too went with Kevin Na, and here is the rabbit hole stat. This is a par 72 that plays less than 7,200 yards. There are a handful of those on the PGA Tour. If you go back to 2011, the best players on par 72s that are less than 7,200 yards with a big enough sample size. Jon Rahm, obviously. Hideki Matsuyama is number 2. Kevin Na is number 3. And he's got twice as many rounds as Jon Rahm. 90 rounds. Plays a lot on these courses.
Is that of anybody or just players in this field?
Just players in this field.
Gotcha. Okay.
I could give you the other ones, but yeah, just players in this field. Mark and Greg, you guys both have the same winner, so I will go with Mark first.
Rahm. He's the form of the field.
Yeah, whatever list you just mentioned, Rick, it's no surprise that Rahm's number 1 on it. He's number 1 on pretty much every list.
Yes.
And if you consider
Except
the
for player of
leaderboard
the
a
year.
list at the end of the week,
And he's only got one win the last season.
I did run like a bunch of those really silly stats and everywhere, and Jon Rahm's name is like top of the list.
yeah, he's number 1. I mean, he's number 1 in the world. Number 2 on the PGA Tour. We think number 2. I don't even know did they come out with a order or just
I mean,
can't like one.
only wins are the only thing that matters. So I'm sure Harris English or Stuart Sink finished second ahead of Rahm.
I need to see the results.
Yeah, Jason Kokrak as well.
Yes.
I need to see
these. This is going to be like, remember when Karl Malone won the MVP in like 97 and then Jordan just lit him on fire in the playoffs? Rahm might go like somehow go 8-0 at the Ryder Cup.
Were you guys the guys who moaned about the backyard contest, the football contest or whatever, and the other team winning? Like, no, that weren't the rules. We're going to play by different rules now. Is that you?
No, Mark, I never lost
what?
a football game in the backyard.
Rules just said.
So I don't.
I just want to know if Jason Kokrak voted for himself or if he voted for Jon Rahm or Patrick Cantlay. That's what I want to know. I want to know who voted for
I want to
himself.
know if Zalatoris had a vote. That's all I want to know.
The coach is going with the champ, Cameron Champ, to win his second Fortinet Championship in 3 years. That is coach's pick. Now, gentlemen, for whatever reason, we let the guy in dead last change the rules for the one and done and tell us how we are. Maybe that should be it. If you finish last, you can just change the rules to whatever you want. It's like getting the first overall draft pick. You know, it's like a way.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Loser becomes commish.
Loser becomes commish. So that's what we have done. We will get the full rules out, but the short of it is, and most of it doesn't matter. Most of it revolves around the prize money being allocated in different segments. But for the way that we are going to do this, we now have to submit blind picks to producer Jacob before we go on air. And I'm pretty sure that's your fault, Mark, because you would wait until everyone else put their pick in and then you pick whoever coach had. And he didn't really, I don't think he really enjoyed that.
Yeah, but I thought it was kind of fun when you sort of knew what the other person was doing, and then you could save, and there was some banter, and then you could suddenly make the late change. I don't know, but I'll play by the rules.
So I'm going to try to go in order from last season if I can remember this. Coach is going with Cam Champ. Jacob, please join us. Come on in and give your first official 2022 season pick, please.
For the 2022 season to win the 2021 Fortinet Championship.
Not true.
I'm going to go with Mark Leishman. Guy plays well in California, pops occasionally. He had a third place finish here last year, so let's roll with it.
If you were saving Leishman for anywhere, if I don't know if there is a spot, but is there a spot that you could have saved Leishman?
Maybe Farmers.
Torrey, yeah.
Yeah.
Bay Hill.
Yeah, he plays well
Bay
at
Hill.
Torrey.
But Torrey, he broke. You're not supposed to hit 4 fairways on Sunday and win at Torrey.
Yeah, well,
True.
I think maybe that taught us something. And he only had 3.
We have no idea what this. Sorry, I gave him an extra one.
That's the fill.
Thank you, Jacob. Next was, I don't know the order anymore. Next was probably you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Your official one and done pick, please.
Well, I didn't have the stones to take Rom off the top, so I went with that would have been sick to take him right here.
Yeah.
We have one of 48 to just roll out John Rahm right now.
So I'm writing yeah. He's been great. You don't know if you're going to be able to take him next May or next July or whatever. So I'm just going to take him right now.
The only other logical spot would have been Shriners. That's the place that he's been awesome at. But as you'll see in a second, I'm very much in agreement with you. I believe, Mark, you are up next, my friend.
Yeah, I thought heavily about Na, and he is sort of the strength of the field alongside Rahm and a couple other guys, that sort of stood out. But I want to save Na a little bit for places like Colonial, one or two of those courses that are down the track that I know he's going to play. So I'm going with McNeely. I'm going with the California boy early. I don't have much knowledge of how he's played of late, but I know he's got a lot of confidence and he's played well here. So Maverick
McNeely for Mark. Greg, you are next, sir. Please give us your pick.
Cameron Champ.
Coach is going to be upset.
Yeah, I think he's got. Well, we'll see. Look, I think he's got a little bit of win equity. He's got a real chance of winning. He could miss the cut too, but I think early on in the season, you get a guy who clearly likes a golf course. It can make it look so easy. Yeah, I think this is the time to shoot your shot with Cam Champ.
That is Cam Champ for Greg and Coach. It is Maverick McNeely for Mark. Jacob's taking Mark Leishman. Kyle is taking Kevin Na. And I, as our reigning champion, am going with hit it, Jacob.
Kevin Na.
There you go. I'm going with Kevin Na too.
Horrible. Horrific.
I'm with
I think you could make the case that Na is the most, I don't know if I would make this case, but the most underrated guy over the last 20 years.
Ooh, he wins a lot.
He wins a lot. He's had a really good career. He's made almost 40 mil. He's just so overlooked. Obviously, I mean, he's just overlooked for the Ryder Cup, and he's not an elite player. He's not like a top 25 type guy, but he's like a better, he's like a Charles Howell that wins more. Right. And I just think that type of guy is kind of underrated on the PGA Tour.
27th on the all-time money list. Currently right between Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed on the all-time money list. Kevin Na.
You would not guess that.
You could have given me a million guesses. I never got that.
No way.
He's ahead of, well, I guess Paul Casey plays a lot of.
It's like 38 mil, 39 mil, 37 mil.
He's made more money than Henrik Stenson, although I guess Stenson played a lot of European Tour events too.
But quick thing about Na, remember for the longest time, he didn't win. I mean, he went for, I think it might have been 9 seasons, might even be longer, when he didn't ever win. And all of a sudden he breaks through at Greenbrier, and then he quickly goes to Colonial. And it's like he's found this vein of form here over recent seasons. So his confidence is percolating in a big way.
Remember when he had the yips? Like, when he couldn't pull the trigger? That's an unbelievable comeback, honestly. I got to admit,
wasn't he in the final group with the yips?
At the Players.
Back it up.
At the Players with Kuchar, I think.
He's in the final pairing, but with the driver.
Wasn't it Kisner?
Anybody? Was it Kiz? I thought it was Kuch. Anybody that has a screen print of themselves picking up a ball out of a hole on the back of their shirt isn't short on confidence. So I don't think that's his
weakness.
That's not his weakness for sure.
What happens when he does that and the ball doesn't go in? Will that ever happen? And will he then stop doing it?
No.
I wish he would stop doing it. It's you can't you can't, as somebody who has done this, you can't overplay your bit. Once you overplay
you would know.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Vince, you got to keep coming up with new bits and just ride it until it's done, and then
I love you, you're the best.
And then move on to the next. Seriously, like, you got to keep reinventing yourself. You can't do the same bit for 15 years.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what else you come up with, KP, and how you evolve in your bit game.
Maybe
Last
your
thing,
next
I
one will
gotta
make
get-
you 39 mil.
I got. That was good. Mark mentioned changing the rules of the backyard football game. That's literally what the Tour Championship did. They said, Rom and Nah, you guys won, but not really, because
They
Patrick
did that
Cantlay
a
won.
few seasons ago, man. Come on. Now the
That's-
guys know the rules of engagement. You're flogging a dead horse. Let's stop.
You guys, I know you scored the lowest, but you didn't win. I'm sorry. The rules have changed. The rules of golf have changed. That's what they did.
We're back, baby. New season, new mega preview pod every single Tuesday in your feeds. For now, let me thank producer Jacob, does all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there, Mark Immelman. You can find him on Twitter at Mark_Immelman. That right there, it's Greg DuCharme. He's the real GFD. That's Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS. And you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.